that almost 30 years in the trenches gave me an understanding of the beasts I was dealing with. Not been part of such discussions. I have said several times, like I said about self-defense, that almost 30 years in the trenches gave me an understanding of the beasts I was dealing with. I understood we were living under an autocratic system that believed in the power of its military. I saw how John Frundi was treated, how Gorgie Dinka, the Abe Mukongs were all treated. And I believe from the beginning that if we arm our people, it will give us a fighting chance. And if negotiations will come, we will talk from a position of strength. Mr. Biya declared war upon us. When the issues of negotiation started, we met within the Gulf Sea. We understand how negotiations work. I did law in my PhD. Remember, I told you I was admitted in Boya's computer and mathematics student. How did I move from the sciences into doing law? I fought in Germany for the right of refugees so hard. We were together. I ended up in jail for 30 days. I took Germany to court. Right to the highest court, the constitutional court. I didn't have money to pay the lawyer. The lawyer said, look, I can't go for it. I went into the website, the European Convention of Human Rights. I started reading, studying it. I've been a human rights activist, student of Abel Mukong. I wrote an application to the European institution, appealing the decision of the German Constitutional Court. I was surprised. About 2 months later, the decision was granted. And I called my lawyer. I said, I wrote to this court and I put all the deposition from the small court to the highest court. I decided I was going to leave Germany to study human rights, to be able to have an understanding of the human rights regime, political regime, and institutional regime. It's a difficult journey, where there were times where there was no space to even sleep. Sleeping in like a homeless person. That was when I walked one day for over 10 kilometers to look for a lawyer to take Cameroun to court because of the case of Akwanga. I sat with Barrister Lowe of Redress. We discussed about the Akwanga case. I gathered the evidence and we took Cameroun to court. You know, Akwanga won the case in 2011. I moved from there to study international relations. For me, it was important because when I was studying human rights, there was something called the politics of human rights. And it involved aspects of international relations. So in my master's, I did international relations to understand the international system. This is critical for you people to understand why I make the kinds of decisions that I make. It's not rhetorical. In doing a PhD, I was admitted my first PhD in Birmingham University to do post-conflict justice. I wanted to study Sierra Leone, Liberia, and South Africa. I wanted to do a comparative study of the different post-conflict regimes. I discussed it with Akwanga. We agreed. Akwanga said, let me do South Sudan. Akwanga wanted to know how you could move from euphoria for independence into the kind of chaos that we see. So we agreed he takes South Sudan. I'm going to take these 3 countries. So we can have an understanding, prepare ourselves. I couldn't go to Birmingham because I had to be in Birmingham. And I had to pay the fees. So I decided Middlesex because I could be in Middlesex maximum 3 months to do the methodologies. And then I could stay in Norway and work, and I paid the fees. All through my studies, Every paper I wrote from my PhD thesis was on Cameroon. My chapter 3 of my dissertation, I studied the history of our country, the evolution. That was my chapter 3. I studied it detailedly to understand it. I studied all Cameroon constitutions from 1960, every single piece of their legislation. That is the basis of my understanding of Cameroon. Studying the international system made me to understand diplomacy. The Swiss, the Americans, aren't coming for diplomacy because they want Amazonia to have independence. Study South Eritrea. Do a comparative study of the Eritrean struggle for independence and Amazonia. You will know when the Eritreans made up their mind. So when they started whispering about these discussions, Amazonians have the feeling like we've been lied to all along that the United Nations was going to give us independence. And when I told Foncha, I think 1996, it's not going to work. We were in Victoria. Those who were in Victoria, you get in long sum, Madame Welegi's hotel. That's where we met for the discussion about the UN. And we told them it's not going to work. While they were going to the UN, we were already making units to defend our blocks. So when these people came, we looked at the script. We looked at the script. You cannot even identify the conflicting parties. Cameroon is going to negotiate with which country? It's not the northwest and southwest regions of Cameroon. We are not a geographic region of Cameroon. If they refuse to respect the identity of the negotiating parties, that's what they call the faux pas. We asked simple questions to the Swiss. There was no clarity. We wanted clarity. Their target was to get Ayaba. Their hope, because their strategy is to undermine me, so you don't believe in me. If they successfully undermine me and discredit me enough, my words mean nothing. That is how the sabotage and blackmail of this revolution started. You can't defeat me, undermine me. So you yourself, those who were close to me, having looked at me sometimes like, maybe there's some truth in these things. Somebody even said, I have taken all the money from AGC to go to a university in the UK to study how to make speeches. That is how bad it went. So the approach of the international system was to get Ayaba. Lump me together with everyone. That's why they call for the US conference, where they formed the SCLC. Just get me there for the optics. You can use the optics to show the world that you've gathered all the students from Amazonia to go lecture them in Geneva. I know it was difficult when I say I'm not going. Or why? Just go. No, you don't just go. You don't just go. It's too delicate to just go. And so sometimes I thought about it. And when you people said go for the collaboration, I went to the United States. This stuff, I left it for Dr. Sako, what I'm wearing today. I told him on the phone, for us, this kind of unity, I've got this for you. Get me something from the Bakure land. Symbolism. If he's hearing me, he knows I said that to him. That's how I was bent for us to work together. You know, I'm not trying to rule anyone, to govern anyone. But I believe that if we collaborate on the issues we agree on, it will make us stronger. If we disagree on certain things, we can respect each other's position and you pursue your agenda. It's like I always tell Comrade Yerima, I am not going to go the middle ground. I'm going to go extreme. And I want you people to sacrifice my position for the sake of Ambazonia. I am not going to blink. I am not going to make any compromise. They will come to us. Yes. For 58 years, we went on our knees. I have made demonstration in front of every embassy in Europe. Him and myself. We occupied Cameroon's embassy in Bonn. That's the time I met him. I asked who is going to change the flag. He told me he would change the flag. We organized ourselves for 2 months. For 2 months we organized ourselves. On the morning of October 1, 2002, we invaded that embassy. I was going for the military attaché. He was going for the flag. She sitting here, they were putting stickers on the wall. We took over the embassy. Within 15 minutes, the German police surrounded the embassy. For us, it was symbolism. For once to take over a space, put our own flag, and feel the nagging sense of freedom. We were so proud of ourselves. We were all cattled into a jail. I was the last to be released at about midnight. The fire was this big. I didn't give a damn for my country. So we will not go to them. I have told the Swiss and every other country, you will come to us. Because Ambazonia is our land. You are not negotiating over Switzerland. I will not go to Geneva. They will come to a country of our choosing when the time comes. When Cameroon commits to a negotiation to surrender, we will send our experts. Chuayaba will not sit. Imagine me in the same room with Mr. Bia. It will take 2 minutes for the room to explode. It will take 2 minutes. The anger is real. It's personal. You don't make it personal, it's personal. We will not, the leaders, I've told every leader, take note, we will not sit. The expert, I don't know anything about negotiation. You know our land boundary. There's an international treaty from 19, the Simon Agreement. Yeah. Do you know our maritime? We don't really know where our border is in the sea. Who is, how do they call the people who demarcate borders? Cartographers or what? I am not one. When it comes to international law, we have gurus, experts like the Casa Anyangwes, the barrister Charles Tackles. Those are the real kind of people, the experts. International diplomats, you have the Dr. Atemken Dennis, you have the Remas. We know nothing about these things. So we will get our experts, put them together. We're having a meeting tomorrow on that with some other leaders. We'll have on the other side defense political leaders. They say something, I think they say Sumowo Baboon Chop. People will not fight on the ground, you talk on their behalf. They will be part of the collective effort to talk. So there will be a defense group. So it represents their interests. There will be the experts, the defense group, and the political leaders. The expert will explore the agenda for discussion. They will not go sit in Switzerland to be lectured by those who collaborated with dictators in Africa to swindle African world. Distort it. What can the Swiss lecture us about negotiation? We know their records, the HD's record in Central Africa, in Syria and other places. They can lecture us. So when Mr. Biya and Cameroon commits to discussion, they move the discussion from Switzerland to a place where we can be sure that there is political neutrality. There is a UN resolution mandating the mediators, and it must be a multilateral effort. We will not accept one mediator. There must be a multilateral approach, highly institutionalized, so that there is a reference go and sit in a room for these people to use platitude and undermine our efforts on the ground. And as we are talking about this, you have a responsibility to arm the ground. I have said we need to take over the territory. I'm confident about it. We can knock off Cameroon in a few months. I tell the world, I'm a gun runner. You go to bed, I am buying it. It is our right to exist. We have a right to life in the land of our birth. We must arm every Ambazonian to defend the ideals of freedom, to defend the independence that was restored by Gorgie Dinkla, asserted by Justice Ebong, and upheld by Siseko. Our generation has a responsibility not to talk about it, not to fantasize about it, to defend it, so that we give our population a fair chance to build an economy where we become entrepreneurs. As you sit here out in Europe, don't think about governing, because the squabbles in this revolution is because you think like governors rather than liberators. You think like governors rather than entrepreneurs. Be the creators of opportunities. I said in South Africa, we'll build an educational system that is going to make everyone an asset. That is going to make the mechanic feel whole, proud of being a mechanic. Make the person sitting in a salon and giving beauty feel whole. After all, the beauty industry in the world is an industry worth billions of dollars. And so why should you feel ashamed to be a hairdresser? Why should you feel ashamed to be a mechanic? Why should you feel ashamed of being a farmer when the richest people out here are farmers? Why do you want to be a stupid deal where your salary is so small that Dangote will make a fool out of you? We must think like entrepreneurs, creators of opportunity. That's the kind of Ambazonia we want to build, where you can leave the Tico airstrip and reach Bamenda in 2 hours, where you can live in Victoria and import your goods from Europe free of charge of duties, where you can build an economy where we can harness the creative energy of the sunlight to power every home in Ambazonia, capture the rainfall in Diboncha and make sure you can eat mango in the dry season, where you can produce cassava in Alabukam and sell gari in Malmo, where you can make sure that that's the kind of country you want to build. Give the farmer right there in Alabukam the opportunity to market their goods right there in Malmo. To create wealth, give opportunity for the mama in Widikum rather than going through Kekem. You buy your soya in Widikum, you put the money in Widikum, so that the roads, the toll gates you pay, go to grade the roads across from Widikum into Manfe. We aren't going to be cheated again. This generation is the generation that has rewritten the history of revolutions. The generation that has written the last chapter of our own story as a brave people who've risen from the dusty streets of Mutengere to restore hope to our beleaguered people. God bless you all. God bless Amazonia.
Good evening, fellow Ambazonians. Greetings and God blessings to you all. This evening, the Ambazonia Defense Forces have enforced the executive order passed by the leader of the liberation of the Ambazonian people, Dr. Cholo Kasayaba. The house of a top Cpdm colonial enabler has been brought down in Bamenda by our forces. I would like to congratulate our forces in Bui, our forces in Momo, our forces in the state of Mezam for the enforcement of the liberation tax. Yesterday, within Bui, Momo, and Mezam, our forces conducted the enforcement of the liberation tax on Ambazonian highways. More than 150 vehicles were stopped for the enforcement of the liberation tax. Three Ambazonian citizens were killed yesterday in Bamenda by the Cameroun colonial and occupation terrorist military of Cameroun. The three that were killed included a 73-year-old Ambazonian man, a grandpa was executed in his home. A young man from Pinyin who traveled to Bamenda to visit his family was picked up on the side of the road in the streets of Bamenda, executed and dumped by the terrorist occupation military of Cameroun. As we have said, there will be consequences on Cameroun. Make no mistake, there will be consequences on Cameroun. Make no mistake. There will be consequences on Cameroun. We Ambazonians, we keep our words, we fulfill our promises. There will be consequences on Cameroun. Every Ambazonian to travel from one part of Ambazonia to the other part, or to travel from one city to the next, or to move, whether it's for commercial purposes, for pleasurable purposes, for family purposes, you need to show proof of the payment of your liberation tax. To move from one state to the next, you need to show proof of payment of your liberation tax. For us to be free, everyone must sacrifice. A little sacrifice for the collective freedom. A little sacrifice so that we end the tyranny on our people. A little sacrifice for this butchering of our people to come to an end. It's in our hands. We owe it to ourselves. We are responsible for redeeming ourselves. We are responsible for reclaiming our dignity and our humanity. We are responsible for our own freedom. The liberation tax, it's one of those most important policies we've enacted and now implementing for the survival of Ambazonia, for the protection of our people, and for the freedom of our homeland. It is a collective responsibility. The forces will be very firm to enforce the liberation tax. Pay your tax so that you don't feel pressured. Pay your tax so that there is no inconvenience. So you don't come and blame ASU. that you've been stopped. You don't come and blame the ADF. You don't come and blame the AGOFC. Pay your liberation tax. Without your liberation tax, there will be no movement. If you have a vehicle, if you are the driver of a vehicle, if you own a vehicle in Ambazonia, without your liberation tax, your vehicle will not be able to move across the highways and the streets of Ambazonia. We are at a critical point. We must get the job done for our people. Everyone must pay their own part. Everyone must play their part and pay their dues. The soldiers are paying their dues. Pay your dues. Liberation tax is 10,000 for every Ambazonian male and 5,000 for every Ambazonian female. Pay your liberation tax. Without a tax, there is no movement. If you own a business, make sure you pay your liberation tax. The forces will be very firm. All right? This is the message. This is the moment. Our freedom is in our hands. Collective responsibility for the survival of Ambazonia. It's your Ambazonia. It is my Ambazonia. Pay your liberation tax. Oh, any man way you want to find out how you go pay your tax, no matter place where you dey, or when I get my WhatsApp number, text me, say Mr. Spokesman, Mr. Asu, I dey for La République du Cameroun, I dey for Yaoundé, I dey for Douala, how I fit pay my liberation tax? I dey for Douala, I want to pay my liberation tax for my family members, how I fit do am? You contact me, we will provide you with a very safe, secure, confidential means. You pay your liberation tax, you send with the screenshot, we process all the receipt, we send them for you, and you divide them for your family members. Any Ambazonia will come up for La République, for go back for Ambazonia, before you want to go back inside the territory, make sure so you get a liberation tax. If you don't get a liberation tax, forget it. If you come on Manfe, you want to go Bamenda. If you not get your liberation tax receipt, forget it. For move from one state to the other or from one town to the other, our forces they go conduct many enforcement points for liberation tax. If you not pay your liberation tax, not even plan to you want travel, not even plan to you want come out from one part of Ambazonia for go for the other one. Pay your liberation tax. We must free our land. We must free our land. We'll get a very bad attitude, even for things they will benefit we. And so, we'll not go tolerate any person who will not pay liberation tax. Now, the time this way, every person, you go pay them by force or you pay them by ease. Now, you get for choose. But you not get a choice. The land must be free. No man not get a choice. The land, it must be free by all means necessary. We don't promise we must free the land. So pay your liberation tax. If you know what inconvenience, pay them you before they stop you for road. Before they stop you, say your motor no go waka. Pay your liberation tax. It no go easy. The forces they will be for road every day until for all the community then. So pay your liberation tax in advance. I want to thank Mami where he don't donate 15 liberation tax receipts. One of one Mami, he don't give 10 liberation tax for 10 Ambazonian women them with their condition. He make them say they no fit pay. And he don't give 5 liberation tax for 5 Ambazonian men them with their condition make them say no fit pay. Me, Lucas Asu, the moment they announced the liberation tax, I be the first Ambazonian citizen where I pay liberation tax for all my family members. Every single family member for my family for ground zero, he don't pay liberation tax. Every member of my family for ground zero, he don't pay liberation tax. Pay your liberation tax. My own family not be exempted. If they not pay their liberation tax, and if they not be get that receipt, they not be fit for travel too. So charity begins at home. That's why I be the first person for pay my own liberation tax. And get every single of my family members in for pay their liberation tax. So pay your liberation tax. You feel help the family members who they not pay their liberation tax. And if you're in a better place, you pay their liberation tax. You pay the liberation tax on their behalf, and you take the receipt them, you send them for them. But any man will not get that receipt. You know if you work for Ambazonia Road. Liberation tax will come from every village. Liberation tax will come for every quarter. Liberation tax will come for every community. Pay your liberation tax. We must free our land. 70% of the liberation tax money it go now for the defense of homeland. Now for buy more weapons. For give for the forces do the trainer. 15% it go be now for upgrade our community schools, build more community schools, improve the quality of the classroom for our community schools. The other 15% it go now for build clinics for villages, for hire nurses, for build hospital them, for provide water for communities, and for improve community economic development. The Ambazonian Liberation Transition Authority, the Ambazonian Transition Liberation Authority, it work very hard for ensure total accountability for every single liberation tax money with the collector. All right? So we're going to give regular updates to the Ambazonian people then on the collection of the public funds. Now, when our money, as the money be collected, it must be accounted for. And they must use them for waiting the Ambazonian Governing Council don't promise the Ambazonian people them. For everything we don't promise them, with the means we get them, we don't deliver them. With the liberation tax, we think say it will take we very far for get our country back. Pay your liberation tax. Una good night.